Hello again. I recently did a video concerning using narrative story to help in your design effort to bring unity to your design, some type of integrity. Story is different than theme. Theme, some people may use it interchangeably, but as I'm using it, typically I think of a theme as like your prom, some kind of dance, and you have a Hawaiian theme, and you get some tiki lamps and stick them up or whatever, and put some pom poms around, and you have a theme. A story is where you actually construct your environment as if you've been to Disneyland, the Disney World, etc., Universal. The environment, if you go to Harry Potter's world, you're walking into Harry Potter's world. It's not just, oh, here's some images of some Potter characters. You're actually, everything around you is Harry Potter's world, right? Pretty much. You understand what I'm saying. So that's the story behind the theme part. I'm going to talk about congruent construction right now. There's a new school being built nearby. I think it's a really interesting school. It's got sort of some funky kind of angles and colors and things like that. I show that on the video, the image on the video when you select the video. By the way, if you please like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share with other people. Make comments, respond, please. Anyway, this very interesting school just makes me think about, what's the school going to be as time goes on? How do you maintain it, etc. As I say, it has funky colors and shapes. It's designed just. It's like you can do all kind of stuff on computer today. It reminds me of maybe a sci-fi comic book or sci-fi movie, superhero movie, right? Or to another world or whatever. And the environment of the buildings and things, Stargate, Star Wars, etc. They might have gone to some effort to make something look like a different world, and that's sort of what this is like. Except it's right here in our world. It's playful. And architects, when they can, want to make a statement. And so this is a statement kind of building. It's not a blasé building, that's for sure. Now, one of the things that we found buildings following, the theory, the design theory that we found buildings and things following here since the late 19th century has been the idea of form follows function. And that evolved into the international style, the Bauhaus style. You can look up architectural history to get that. But before that, you had styles that were based on ancient styles, on Greece and Rome and things like that. And they might have been variations of those styles, but they were basically based on that. You've got, I think in Scandinavia, there's some wooden churches that are Gothic looking. Well, Gothic isn't what a normal wood structure would be. So those wood structures, all they were using an alien material to build the Gothic style, alien from where the Gothic style came from. They're doing something that is different, that's interesting, but it's a style that they're following. With form follow function, you might have seen buildings, particularly commercial or particularly industrial kind of buildings, where the architect might have said, well, look, this building has major either water pipes or air conditioning ducts, etc. They're major to the building, and we're going to show those. Those are integral to the function of the building, so we're going to show those. So you might have occasionally seen pictures or seen one in person of a building that is, designed like it's sort of inside out looking because it doesn't have that shell of a style on it. It's saying here we are. Here's the beams. Here's the glass, etc. So again, Bauhaus, Bauhaus, is the way you spell that. International style, if you're interested. Now, what we're probably most used to seeing is, except for what we call vernacular architecture, which is this is the way they build it here, always have and or have for a long time, etc. That's the idea behind vernacular. It's what they build in a location, vernacular. But form follows style is what we're probably more used to thinking about, and this may be related to me, it's a more psychologically grounded kind of thing. That is, you're designing something that people understand and relate to, and it makes sense to them. And most of what we see are these like Greek Revival, neoclassical kind of styles. You maybe if you're in Florida or the Southwest, you might see these mission styles, these Spanish-based styles that look, because they come out of the Spain, and Spain had the Islamic influence on it for a few hundred years, and so that's affected the Alhambra, etc. in Spain. So you see these Spanish, we'll call them Spanish kind of styles. And so that influences how a building's built. But with the Renaissance, the people in Europe, Western, Northern Europe, started traveling around to Greece and Rome and Egypt, and they saw the old temples and things that had been, although originally they had been very colorful, and archaeologically we have found this out, that the things in Rome, Pompeii, etc., these are very colorful buildings, but they were washed out by the time, from weather, by the time the Europeans saw them at hundreds of years later. So they went back and they built things that were sort of, just a stone building, not a painted stone building. So they were following the style. So antebellum, neoclassical, these kind of things would follow that, right? Because we just inherited that style basically from Europe. Our college campuses historically were often built with these kind of styles. Jefferson did the University of Virginia, the quadrangle there or whatnot. So that's style is influencing the form. Form follows style. Now, what I've always tried to consider is what is psychologically reasonable to a person. So when they look at something. So therefore, I'm in a little restaurant here that we go to, and I look over there at the counter, and they've got rock at this faux rock, but it looks like rock, right? It's along the base of the counter, and underneath it they have tile. So it's the same tile as the rest of the wall. It looks like the same tile as the floor, and it runs underneath the rock. Well, now, see, that's an incongruent thing to my mind, because if we were saying this is rock, then rock, especially a rough rock, would typically be a foundation rock. If you go over and look at archaeological sites, you may see a very rough-hewn rock as the foundation stone. And then they build these more elaborate, delicate buildings on top of that stone. Okay? So, you go out in the field, if you can look at old historic homes that may be 100 years, 200 years old around the United States, and go up underneath that house, if the house is up on built up on, with a raised floor, you go underneath the house, it may be sitting on stones, just rough stones. They haven't done, of course, they're not even showing up. But the point is that more delicate things tend to be at the top. And on top of that, psychologically, lighter weight things sit on top of heavier things. So to see this heavy, massive rock sitting on top of the tile looks funny to me. Now, I get it that whoever designed that just thought, I like that rock look and I like it against that, and I think I'll just do this. And they're just treating it as a tile. I get that that's probably the way they approach the job. But these are the kind of things that are incongruent in a design. I have my door seal at the threshold of my house. I've designed my house. I did not think about getting into the detail of how to design a door seal for the people working on it. Well, they built the house. They poured the slab. My house sits on a slab. They built the walls. The walls come straight up off the slab. And when you're looking at the house, okay, everything's looking good. And they come along and they put on the stucco, right? Okay, that's all cool. It goes all the way down to the ground, no problem, looking good. And then they start putting on the applique things that give character to the house instead of just be this big chunk of stucco. So, and I have sort of a, you might call it a classical kind of front entrance. It's a very simple thing, inexpensively done, but I had a design idea in my mind, and so I have columns, and they're square columns. They're built with a particular block, so it's a little bit different size than a regular cement block. It's a smaller cement block, but it's just a cement block, stuccoed. And I came back and to see my house one day, and the guys that had been stuccoing, well, they had stuccoed the column in a rough stucco, like the side of the house. Well, this is the delicate part of the design, see? So I was so disappointed because the very delicate, inviting part of the house, instead of this rough rest of the exterior, this is supposed to be delicate and inviting. And they had blown it. They didn't understand. They're not designers. And even some designers obviously don't understand these things. And the other thing I was mentioning, the threshold to the door, well, I have a frame, and it's a stucco frame, just a build out around the door. And they build it out. Well, you get down to the bottom, the build out just hangs. It's a build out off the now. You probably would never notice this, right? There's a lot of things that we don't consciously pay attention to, but that doesn't mean it doesn't affect the way we are experiencing things a lot of times. But so it's built out about a ½ inch from and it just hangs. It hangs so that it should be set. My door should set on something solid, and of course the door in general does. But these particular things, we possibly should have built some kind of build out to make it look sort of like a column base, maybe there. I don't know, but that's something I hadn't thought all the way through as far as thinking I had to think about it. And so there you have something incongruent, because you have this stone, what appears to be stone, stuccoed, maybe you might assume it to be mud brick with stucco on it, but nonetheless, it's just hanging. It's instead of sitting on a firm foundation. Sitting on a firm foundation is important for a lot of your elements to have people feel comfortable. You can drive up and down the road and see brand new houses in a lot of these neighborhoods. Their columns are, well, you only need maybe a 2.5 inch steel post to hold up your little porch in the front of your house. But it doesn't look like it's strong enough to hold it up. Psychologically, we look at that and it looks like there's something wrong with that. And that's because we think you need a column to hold up that roof. It's just an innate thing that we consider. So these are the kind of little details that sometimes get lost in design, and that we need to think about when we're designing our environment. Not because it's necessary. See, this is a thing. Modern technologies make it possible for us to do all kinds of things in steel that we could not have done before the mid to late 1800s. It was impossible. Elevators weren't in buildings. They didn't have that tall of a building until they were able to build it with building with steel. So and we're obviously able to do all kind of things. I designed a sign one time that was is a really interesting design, uh, and it got built, and they didn't want to spend the money that they'd have to build it. They would have had to build it out of steel or something like that. And instead, they built it out of concrete block, and it just looked like a chunky mess, sort of. So, you know, we can do things. I designed something based on what was possible, just like the design of this school was something that's possible. The difference is they're carrying out their design, and on that sign, my design concept didn't get carried through with. So, you know, heavier, rougher materials on the bottom, materials that look like the structural element is sitting on it. Those kind of things can be important to your design. So I'm getting back to the school. I'm thinking as the reason I'm giving this video is I have thought of, over time, I keep driving by that school and saying, that's cool. But it sort of strikes me, what's going to happen in 10 or 15 years when the paint surface fades and they decide to repaint that? Now, we have seen plenty of houses that have all kind of interesting detail on it, where, different kind of shingles. The boards, instead of just being clapboards running horizontally, they have triangular or angular kind of layout of the wood siding and things like that. Houses that were designed with stained wood. And, after a while, these things go out of style, right? And people say they wanted something else. I just had my house painted. Now, several people around me have had their house painted. They're all painting them houses gray. Everything's gray. No one's original. They just say, gray is in. That's the style. We're doing gray. Gray, black, white. It's everywhere. But look, my house isn't a gray house. It wasn't designed as a gray house. I did not paint my house gray. I painted it the exact same color that it was when I painted initially. That's what my house is. My roof goes with the house. I got the roof redone a few years ago. I'm not going to go off and get some weird color just to get a new color, because my house looks the way it's supposed to look to me. It's sort of like the couture clothing for women, which are well-designed clothes, and I guess men too. These are clothes that are designed, they don't go by the style of the day. They are stylish. They are the style, right? They are their own style. And that's what we ought to be doing, is designing our own style and not really worried about following a style. Because why? Because 5 or 10 years ago, we got to change our style to keep up with the style, right? And what your house was, or whatever it is you're dealing with, might have been good as it was. Is this school going to get painted all white? I would doubt very seriously that the Board of Education is going to go, well, let's see. Yeah, let's pay extra money to have 3 or 4 different colors of the for the school. I see buildings all over the place getting painted. They started out with multiple colors. There's some buildings in the town here, downtown, that were painted with several colors. The architect wanted to have interesting buildings, and they designed them and had all this interest with various colors and things, and structural elements. And now that it's like 2 colors. A lot of things have gotten painted over with some dull color, and not much punch, and white, right? That's the way it goes. And that's probably what will happen to this school. So the great, interesting design that the architect had in mind and hopes to have for posterity, because this is, architects want to do things that last forever. In 10 or 15 years, it might be obsolete. And I mean obsolete not because it couldn't be. If the architect happens to be a very, very famous architect, and people want to maintain his design because he's such a famous architect, like Frank Lloyd Wright or something like that, or Gehry, somebody like that, then yeah, they may fork out the extra. They'll have create a foundation and raise money and paint it to be just right. But more than likely, it'll get painted two colors, and it'll just look like the same big old monstrosity that so many other government buildings are, with very little interest to it. And that'll be sad. Anyway, think about the congruency of construction whenever you're thinking about how you want to design things around you. Share, and comment. Have a good day.